In a kitchen bathed in golden sunlight, filled with the tempting aroma of cheese and sweets, our story begins. Shelves overflowed with treats, utensils sparkled like tiny stars, and jars of delicious cheese lined the counters. Here, Tommy the cat was on the prowl, his ears twitched, his green eyes focused, and his long tail flicked back and forth with anticipation. He had a single, all-consuming mission to finally catch the elusive Jerry the mouse. But Jerry wasn't just any mouse. He was a tiny genius, a master of mischief, always a clever step or three ahead of his feline rival. Tommy's plan seemed simple enough. He spotted a perfect, golden wedge of cheese sitting temptingly on the counter. Slowly, silently, he crept closer, his paws barely making a sound on the checkered floor. He lifted a paw, ready to snatch the prize, and, hopefully, the mouse he knew would be nearby. But just as his claws were about to touch the cheese, a brown blur zipped out from behind a cookie jar. It was Jerry, of course, leaving a shimmering trail of crumbs that twinkled like a miniature galaxy. With a frustrated meow, Tommy lunged forward. But in his haste, he didn't see the stray rolling pin on the floor. His paws went out from under him, and with a comical yowl, he tumbled head over paws into a giant sack of flour. Whoosh! A massive cloud of white dust erupted, filling the air and covering everything in a fine white powder. Tommy emerged, looking less like a fearsome predator and more like a fluffy snowball. A series of tiny sneezes escaped him, puffing up his fur even more. From a safe distance, Jerry couldn't contain himself. A high-pitched squeak of pure laughter echoed through the kitchen. Undeterred, Tommy shook the flour from his coat and the chase was on again. Jerry was a whirlwind of motion. He scurried across the countertops, his tiny feet a blur. He hopped from bowl to bowl like they were stepping stones, slid down the smooth, cool metal of a spoon as if it were a playground slide, and leaped gracefully over stacks of brightly colored plates. The kitchen became his personal obstacle course, and he navigated it with flawless, acrobatic skill. Every single time Tommy thought he had Jerry cornered, the little mouse would prove him wrong. Behind a stack of cookbooks, nope. Jerry would dive into a tiny mouse hole in the wall, only to pop out seconds later from behind the sugar canister on the other side of the room. And he wouldn't just appear, he'd wave a tiny piece of cheese triumphantly, like a victorious flag, before dashing off again. Tommy, growing more frantic, chased him around a table, knocking over a row of milk bottles. The white liquid created a slippery river across the kitchen floor, turning the chase into a chaotic ice skating routine. While Tommy slipped and slid, trying to find his footing, Jerry found a new mode of transport. He hopped onto the back of a rolling teapot, surfing the wave of spilled milk with a gleeful squeak. He laughed and laughed as he watched Tommy perform a series of unintentional, clumsy flips and spins, his legs flailing in every direction. The kitchen was descending into a state of beautiful, hilarious chaos. Chocolate bars, knocked from a shelf, bounced on the floor like tiny trampolines. Falling utensils clanged against pots and pans, creating a wild, percussive symphony. And the cheese, oh the cheese, seemed to magically multiply as they zoomed past it, scattering wedges and crumbs everywhere. Finally, a moment of triumph for Tommy. He saw Jerry scamper into a large glass jar and, quick as a flash, he slammed the lid on top. Gotcha, he thought, a wide, toothy grin spreading across his face. He peered into the jar, his victory dance already beginning. But Jerry, ever the innovator, was not defeated. From a hidden pocket, he pulled out a secret gadget he'd been working on, a tiny, perfectly engineered cheese catapult. With a flick of his paw, he launched a small piece of cheddar. The cheese flew through the air in a perfect arc, and bonk! It hit Tommy gently right on the head. The surprise impact sent Tommy stumbling backward, dizzy and confused. He spun around and crashed right into a tall cupboard filled with sparkling candy jars. The cupboard doors flew open, and the jars tumbled down, shattering on the floor and creating a spectacular rainbow of candy that rained down over the entire kitchen. Red, blue, green, and yellow sweets showered over both cat and mouse. For a brief, magical moment, the chase stopped. Both Tommy and Jerry stood frozen, their eyes wide with wonder, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline. They looked at the colorful, sugary chaos they had created. A sweet-smelling wonderland of their own making. But the truce was short-lived. A mischievous twinkle returned to Jerry's eye. He squeaked, grabbed another tiny piece of cheese, and darted off again, disappearing into the candy landscape. Tommy, ever persistent, shook his head to clear it and gave chase once more. The hunt resumed, but now with a new, candy-coated twist. He leaped over piles of gumdrops, slid under chairs draped with licorice whips, and performed the funniest, wildest acrobatics anyone had ever seen, all in his relentless pursuit of the little mouse. The chase reached its grand finale with a series of spectacular flips, spins, and near misses. They raced towards the grand centerpiece of the baker's counter, a huge mixing bowl filled to the brim with fluffy, white whipped cream in a final, climactic leap. Both cat and mouse soared through the air and landed with a soft, satisfying plop right in the middle of the bowl. Silence. Then, two heads popped up from the sea of cream. Tommy and Jerry, completely covered in white fluff, with chocolate sprinkles and candy bits stuck in their fur, looked at each other. A moment of stunned silence passed, and then they burst out laughing. Tommy's deep chuckle mingled with Jerry's high-pitched giggles. The great chase had ended not with a capture, but with shared, uncontrollable laughter. Even though Tommy didn't get the mouse this time, the adventure had brought them so much fun, and a kitchen that was messy but sparkled with the magic of their chaotic friendship. Slowly, Jerry climbed out of the bowl, shaking the cream from his fur. He scurried away with a tiny crumb of cheese clutched in his paw, his trophy. Tommy watched him go, shook his head with a fond smile, his tail twitching. He was already planning their next hilarious adventure. Because, after all, life is so much more fun when you're chasing a goal. And sometimes, a little bit of chaos is just what you need to find the most laughter. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fun adventures. See you next time.